Hey guys, welcome back. Today we're going to be doing how to do this shortest edge path. This one is going to be all geometry nodes, and after this tutorial, you'll be able to do what you're seeing on screen now. Let's jump right in. Take the default cube, go into geometry nodes, and make a new system. So we're going to be exploring the shortest edge paths, and I'm going to kind of do a demo of what it is, as well as kind of just showing you general kind of best practices using it. Actually, we need to have an object we care about, so let's first turn this cube into a grid to get it straight forward right here. And then let's add in a text object just to make it easy. So Shift A, text, and let's just change this to something very important that you all should be doing. Subscribe. Let's go to modifier stack and let's do a couple modifiers. Let's do generate, solidify, generate, remat. Looks good enough. Grab, pull it in, having it intersect with the mesh like this. Control A, apply scale. Nice, back into GeoNodes. We pull in the text here. Nice, and we're gonna add some subdivisions into this plane. Subdivide mesh, be like 5. Let's just do preview, maybe more, be like 7. Nice, looking pretty good. Now to do this main effect, we're gonna wanna use 2 nodes. We're gonna use the shortest edge paths node, and then the edge paths 2 curves. That's how this is going to work. So the next vertex index is going to go into this next vertex index slot. We have the start vertices and the end vertex. So let's just hide this for now and focus just on the base effect. So if we pipe this in with just doing an index node, as an index node just to pull this, you can see what happens. So we apply this in here and here, and we can see everything goes away because it's trying to turn that mesh data into edge paths, but there's no data for it to choose from. So we notice that on these, we have the green kind of rhombus, the green diamond going into the pink one. That means it's a Boolean value. So to turn that into a Boolean, we got to do a compare node. We can choose integer. So now it looks correct. So we can say equals, equal here. So now it's just basically saying all of the vertices are going into the 0th one. Actually, let's make this a bit less subdivision. Let's do 5. If we move it around, we can see which one it's choosing, and that's how it's working. So let's copy this too and pop it in here, make it something else. So we know it's saying 4, and this one's 18. And let's actually add some remesh so you can see it. So curve to mesh, mesh to curve. Oops, just kidding. And then curve circle. Let's do 8 here, and then let's do a set curve radius, boom, and I'll do a spline parameter, and we'll do length, let's say, and then we're gonna do a float curve, this value coming in, go in here. Is this looking better? 0.01. And if we have a trim curve before it, we can make sure it's looking correct. So it's trim curve, nice. I am happy with it. Cool, now it'll be a bit easier to see. Okay, so we have this, we can change these 2 values, chooses which index of like which point along the overall grid it's choosing. So it has an end vertex and a start vertex, and it's making that edge path. Then if you were to change the edge cost with a random value, you'll be able to not have the actual shortest path. It'll be some kind of like fractured out path. So let's see that. Random value, pop this in. So now it's going from here to here, right? Before it was this path, but with this random value put in, it now thinks that this is the shortest value because we're changing the math of it. We change the seed, we're getting all these different kind of branching paths. Cool. So then the main thing is for the start vertices, we want to have them be more like split. So if we change this rather than equals to be greater than, suddenly we're having all of these branching paths going simultaneously. And that is pretty cool. So now looking at this, what we can see is that it's now branching off, going all these different places based off of this. So the start vertices are now everything greater than 0, which means it's basically all of the indices essentially. So everything is greater than 0. So then if we do this, it'll branch off to every single point and make a curve going that direction. And then if we change this point, it will change which point is where it's like coming out of. Now it's moving around little pipies. So that's the main kind of effect with shortest edge path. You got to choose the vertices. Now we have shortest edge paths working, and we also have kind of the basic logic. Now we got to unhide, so Alt H to unhide this, we want to have this text be like part of the overall effect. So how is that going to work out for us? Well, first we're going to need to increase the size, and it is doing a lot of polygons. So let's make this like 3. Curve to mesh, mesh to curve, merge by distance. Nice, that removed like 5 million. Just make it sub so it's easier to see, make it bigger. Now what we want to do is we want to take this text data, like this mesh data right here, which is right on this object. We want to make sure that we have this information make a nice gradient for us. How can we do that? We can do that with a geometry proximity node. So we do this data, and then a capture attribute to make sure it's clean. Point or position, and this position. We're now gonna have this distance function. We're seeing this clean fall off based off of where the text is onto the mesh itself. Cool. Now we can use this as the logic for our start vertices. So let's take this in, and again, we're gonna use a compare node. This time it's gonna be a float. This is how we're gonna get a Boolean. So we have a float value here going in here. So let's just say equal, we have this, you can see it still. We can increase this epsilon a little bit, 0.02, 0.01, too little, 0.01. Let's just see how this looks now. Pipe that in, exit out. So now we're seeing from this one endpoint out over here, we're having it branch out and then kind of follow the subtext mesh. And this is why we're going to increase our resolution, so it's easier to see it. And then if we hide this, we now have kind of a cool little effect on the actual text itself. And then we can also trim this curve back here. It's a bit laggy because of the density of everything. Let's just do 6. This is kind of the main idea. So this is the main idea. We're choosing which of the start vertices we're going to use to how it's going to branch out. And we can also add in additional points with the index and Boolean math. So say Boolean math, we can take this, we can say or, and then we can say Control-Shift-D, pop this in. We can choose another different index. Let's say like up here maybe. I think down actually looks really cool. So that one looks good. There we go. I think the up and the down kind of look the best. Then it's kind of coming from both sides. Then now it's kind of branching from 2 different spots as we're seeing it. So then it'll form the letters how we see. And then to make it more interesting, what we can do is we can pipe this Boolean data right here, when it's the distance function, into a wave texture. Pipe this into the vector. Look at this, right? Now we're seeing this as the fall off. Lower the scale. We can control the phase offset to do that and pipe this color in. Nice. And now we kind of get this ring effect. So we take this, we kind of get this rippling mesh data. It's rippling shortest edge path kind of like coming in. So the last question is, how are we going to make sure we can see these letters really cleanly? I can do this, pipe it back in. Can we look at it? We have this as the texture, and we can save this as, I would say, I guess, if we do a map range instead, map range, pop this in, look at this. You know it's going from 1 to 0 now. So we invert it. We pull in this range so it's much cleaner. And then maybe like this, -80. So this is a good value for us to capture. So let's store named attribute. Let's pipe it in here. And let's call this text mask. We can use that for the shader editor later. Okay, so I was playing with the parameters a little bit, but there was a bit of an issue with the spline parameter because of the remeshing the curves, and also it's instancing a curve for every single point along the kind of radius of this mask right here, right? So it's kind of instancing a bunch of points. There's a lot of different unique curves. I'm sure there's a more clever solution, but for now, what I decided to do instead was basically just use a float curve, set the factor to basically be the same. So we get these little tapers on the little curve segments. And I change the spline type to NURBS, and it seems to be looking okay. And then what we can do is we can then say set a material, set material. So in the shader workspace, we're gonna go over here. We're gonna do a mesh plane, grab Z, pull it down a little bit. This will be material, a nice contrast. Let's do a dark red, almost black. And then this will be the new material, which we're gonna make whatever we want. Let's see how it looks. Green. Nice, we're getting green, perfect. And then what we can do is we can then pull in this named attribute, which we have over here, which is text mask. Control C to grab that. So I'll do attribute and then paste. And then we're seeing it right there, right? See? Color. So then what we can do on this material is we can plug this in as a color ramp, like so. Pop it in here, pop it in there. Let's also add this as an emission to make sure have it get some white, be easier to see. Let's say 2 or 1. I think that's okay. And then let's just make this a bit more contrasting. And then let's make this, say, bright red. And then this can be something like this. Now it's a bit more monochromatic. And how is this looking? There we go. So in the render preview, we're able to kind of see just that outline in the material of this right here as it kind of follows that mask, which is looking pretty good. Nice. Obviously, you can tinker with this like basically forever, but this is the main setup. Hope you guys learned something. Again, kind of all you got to do is make sure you choose clever end vertex and start vertices for the shortest edge paths to work correctly. The project file will be on my Patreon. Please give a comment or subscribe or whatever. Give some sort of engagement. The engagement is huge for helping my channel. I really appreciate that. Thanks, guys. And hope to see you in the next one. Thanks. Peace.
Augury.